FITC is pleased to introduce Jason Theodor. Jason is a creative director at Blast Radius and just the man you've been looking for to get those creative juices flowing. Today, he'll help us break through barriers, disrupt old patterns, and dig a little deeper. Please welcome Jason Theodor.
Hello. Good morning. This is a great crowd, and thank you for that crazy introduction. I don't think I've ever been introduced by a theater trailer voice before. So I'm here today to talk to you about creativity. So the whole title of this lecture, this talk, this presentation is about how to create more, better, and different. And it's based on the creative method and systems and this idea that I have about what creativity is. So just, I know we had the intro. This is the obligatory Twitter address. Jason Theodor, JTED is short for that. I'm a creative director at Blast Radius. I spend a lot of my time dealing with creativity and coming up with ideas and helping other people come up with ideas. I've been in this industry for quite a long time in advertising, but even before that, I was always fascinated by artists and by crazy people that wanted to make cool stuff. And this conference is filled with people that want to make cool stuff. So that's what I want to talk about a bit today. I think that the entire idea of creativity and what creativity is sometimes a bit intimidating, and there's some mystery behind it and a bit of a shroud. So my whole point today is to make creativity more accessible to everybody. So what I'm going to talk about in the next hour is the definition of creativity. What is it? I'm going to talk about the creative types. I think that there are roughly 8 creative types, and my question to you will be, where do you see yourself? What are your creative strengths and weaknesses based on these creative types? And then we'll get into a little bit more of a toolbox for amplifying your strengths and helping you get past some of the weaknesses. So how to create more, better, and different. So let's start with creativity. What is it? And who is it for? So I think that creativity is the act of connecting things in unexpected ways. Things coming together in ways that you didn't expect. These are the 3 elements of creativity. There are all kinds of definitions. You look up creativity on Wikipedia, or you look at any artist or any person that's creating, any scientist. There are researchers that are looking into the way that our brain works and how we think in creativity, and they all have their own definitions. I like mine, but I like the fact that it breaks up into 3 discrete areas. So the first one is this idea of act, the act of. That's terribly important. The act of is pretty much the foundation of the entire deal. Action. Without action, nothing actually happens. You don't actually make anything without the idea of action. And then the idea of connecting things. So your thoughts, your actions, your ideas, what it is that you're making have to have some kind of relationship. The relationship to other people, to other ideas, to the culture that we live in, to the time we live in, to humanity. And then the act of the unexpected. So I call this, the third element, I call this deviation. And it's about the unexpected. The deviation in scientific terms is that outlier data. It's the point that not everything is in line with. It's that space a little bit outside of the way things generally work. It's beyond the default where you tend to think. So unexpected, this is the part that has to do with originality. So creativity, in my mind, is made up of action, connection, and deviation, and those are the core elements. Now, people often also think that creativity is something that is just for artists and musicians and those types of people, the people that we generally consider to be creative people. IBM did this fascinating study where they interviewed over 1,500 CEOs of different companies around the planet, and the fascinating thing is that creativity was cited as the #1 most important leadership quality over the next 5 years. Creativity, who would have thought? So, and I know that that's associated with the idea of innovation and coming up with new things and new ideas, but creativity isn't just in the realm of the musician and the painter. Another common misconception is that creativity is just about originality. When someone says, "Oh, that's a very creative person. That person's really creative," they think that that person is unique in some way, and they are. They absolutely are. But people get intimidated by the idea. Well, I don't know if I have that as original ideas as that other person, and that can be an intimidating thing. So deviation. Really, this is about experimentation and how that leads to the expression of the self. It's about breaking the default, as we talked about. It's about not just going to that default place in your mind when you think of something. It's about pushing it a bit further. It's about being unique. It's about outlier data. It's about being original. But again, this shouldn't be too intimidating. This is really just the very, very tip of the iceberg when it comes to creativity. There's also the idea of connection. Now, connection is just as important. Connection has to do with making associations and then building up an understanding of what it is that you're trying to focus on, what it is that you're trying to achieve, what it is that you're trying to do. And again, that can be anything from writing a song to running a company and trying to come up with new products. So the idea of focus, the idea of something being culturally relevant, that is also important. But the core of the entire thing, the biggest aspect, is the foundation of action. Action is the most important aspect of all when it comes to creativity. It has to do with practicing and getting better and better at your craft so that you can gain experience. And that experience allows you to actually make things. So it has to do with momentum. It has to do with building up a creative routine. It has to do with eliminating the certain barriers that prevent you from actually being creative or doing creative things. So there's some fascinating quotes that I love. One is, I'm sure you've heard this before, the genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration, according to Thomas Edison. And then in Malcolm Gladwell's book on outliers, he talks about the research done by Daniel Levitin and the idea that it really takes about 10,000 hours to become a genius or to become considered a world-class expert in a particular field, whether that's, again, music or technology or what have you. So when you look at those two elements, 1% inspiration to 99% perspiration, you look at 10,000 hours, I thought, well, what if you broke this down into a bit of a ratio? What if you thought about action as being the 10,000 hours of practice that's required before you could become considered a creative genius, followed by about 1,000 hours of association, of research, of trying to understand something, of making connections, and then really just about 100 hours of experimentation and playing with an idea and trying to tweak it so that it becomes something that's unique and original. This is very debatable, but maybe it's a ratio of about 100 action to 10 connection to 1 deviation. And then action, connection, and deviation also relate to the creative process that I go through every day and that a lot of people go through when they're trying to come up with something, when you have to do a brainstorming session or when you need to solve a problem or when you're told that you need to tackle something to become more innovative. The creative method is really about these 5 steps. Now, 2 of them are on the fringe, it's fantastic to have a focus when you want to do something creative. You don't always need to have a focus. Sometimes the focus can come to you in the action of creating. But it's good to start with a focus. It can be very helpful to kind of keep you on track, unless you don't want to be on track. And then the act of induction. This is the action part of it. This is where you want to come up with as many ideas as possible. This is when you're pushing for quantity, when you want to have a lot of ideas. Get them all out there, good ideas, bad ideas. And then you go through the second phase, which is the connection bit. This is where you are analyzing and synthesizing. Analyzing really simply means taking something and breaking it up into different sections and different pieces. So you've got a lot of ideas, and you go, oh, these ideas kind of fit together. That will connect those. These ideas kind of fit together. And then synthesis is actually realigning them and putting them together in specific ways. And then the deduction and differentiation. Here's where you look at the ideas and you go, okay, how can I make this idea better? How can I differentiate this idea, make it different from the other ideas? How can I create an original? Has this been done before? I'm looking at it a little more critically, and then the final step is to evaluate that idea against my original focus and say, did I pay off on that focus? Does this answer the questions I wanted to answer? Does this do what I wanted it to do? Did I reach the goal I wanted to reach? If not, you can really just go around the loop again. Now, it's not really, it's a bit more fluid than this in real life, but this is a way to express it. And again, this contains these elements of action with the induction, the creation of ideas. That's the quantity. It involves the connection, which is about the quality of the idea and making sure that the pieces fit together. And then it's about the deviation. It's about the uniqueness of that particular idea. So creativity, definition, these three elements: action, connection, and deviation. And an easy way that I find to remember this is the moniker of do, glue, and skew. Action, connection, deviation. And I've created these little icons based on what the true meaning of these elements actually are. So we've got this fearless arrow. This is about momentum. This is about movement into the future. This is about doing something, moving forward, creating a routine to get into that action. Then you've got this infinite loop, the idea of interconnectedness, the idea of patterns, of cycles, the idea of how things fit together and how they repeat, etc. And then for deviation, you could consider this to be inner sight or the third eye. You could also consider this to be the unmarked path that we're moving around something, or that the little dot is our outlier data in a data set. So when you have these elements of creativity in balance and you have them in equal measure, or in equal strength, I should say, action, connection, deviation, that's when you can create magic. That's when you can do some amazing things. So the truth of it is that creativity is not a talent. I love this quote by Hugh MacLeod from Gaping Void. He says that creativity is a drive, that it's something that you're passionate about. It's something that you can't not do. And that doesn't mean that you're necessarily born with the ability. It means that you want to make that ability happen. So I'm going to just give you a quick overview of what I call the creative types, and see if you can identify with any of these particular types. If you can, then that's great. If not, then I didn't do as good of a job as I thought.